Hello, this is Sam from the Coco. We're going to go through some while loops. For a while loop, you're basically saying, while the condition is true, do this. Now, to quickly show the difference between a while loop and an if statement, if we quickly run this in the browser, so we're saying if true, alert, this one's forever. So here's our alert. We click OK, and that's it. Now, if we change this to a while loop, so we're saying while true, this one's forever, and you're going to see a big difference here in the browser. This is literally going to run forever. Maybe my computer will crash before forever happens, but it's just going to keep going. And the reason for this is because this is still true. Now if we use the not operator here and say while not true, well, it's still going to go, because it's just saying while false, keep going, and we can't change that. So you got to be careful with while loops, because you can end up having an infinite loop, and we'll look at some things later that can get you out of this, like using a break. So let's look at a real life example, and we can start to figure out how to use a while loop and how they work. So we've got a different example here, because we've got a condition for our while loop that isn't just strictly true. So first we set our count to 0, and then we're going to say while count is less than 5, and we're going to get alert in the browser saying this one's 5 times, and then at the end of each loop we're gonna plus 1 to the count. So if we look in our browser, if we count along here, this one's 5 times, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So because count is now 5, the condition has been met because it's not less than 5. So this isn't going to run, and count isn't going to still be going up. And if we change the condition, so if we're saying if count is more than 5, well, you can see in the browser we're not going to get anything because the condition's not true. Count isn't more than 5. If I quickly just change that to 6, the condition will be met. But unfortunately, because count is always going to be more than 5, because we started our count as 6 and the count's always going up, we're going to end up being in an infinite loop again. So there's good times to use a while loop and a bad time to use a while loop as well. So we're going to see how to use the while loop and also have some safety precautions built into it to stop it running forever. So we've got our count again. We're saying while count is less than 5, and then we're saying if count strictly equals 3, breaking out the loop at count 3, and then we've got our break here. If it doesn't strictly equal 3, each time the terminal, we're going to see this. And also count is going to be incremented by 1 each time as well. And then once we've satisfied this, we'll get the alert loop exited. If we have a look in the browser, this runs but will break before reaching 5, and our count is on 0, then our count is on 1, our count is on 2, and we're not actually going to run it at 3 because we have met 3. So we're going to have breaking out the loop at count 3 and then loop exited. So because the break is here, we don't actually reach 3, and that's why we see this. Something interesting that we've seen here, as you noticed, our count starts at 0. So even if we didn't increment count by 1 or have any of this in here, while this is true, loop is going to 1. If count is on 0, it's just gonna, if we don't increment it, it will just keep looping because it's always going to be less than 0. So this just shows that the while loop is starting from the top, working its way down, and then on the next loop, count will then be 1. Then it will work its way down again, count will be 2. Then when it strictly equals 3, we see this alert in the browser instead. So this is basically it for while loops. There are other keywords and stuff you can use with it as well, like continue or other keywords like that. It's very good to use, and it's important to know when to use it so you don't end up in an infinite loop. If you want to learn about do while loops, I'm going to make a video on that as well. I will link it at the end of this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.